This is part two with learning, and certainly I have emphasized to them green in the face, right, Mama? Green emerald face, um, about learning and the acceleration of learning and the accelerated speed that actually isn't even close. And I covered bifurcation using AI learning, machine coded learning versus learning through spirit, which is learning through the light that is purified, which is as pure as it gets with an oversoul. So the speed of learning, when you're hooking up with a higher speed drive, you're going to learn faster with that drive motor with a living, powerful spirit like a goddess and a planet than you are with artificial intelligence, which is artificial light, which is finite light, which runs at a slower speed. Because you're learning through no time versus a library held in RAM. Okay, start with that. So this is why I go back with the other Lemurian lady when her and I were working together. Okay, working the streets of Hilo. We were at Lapahoihoi together on quite a bit, and what we were observing and sharing together, right? And naturally, a lot of what we were experiencing by virtue of the vibrational speed, which was represented by the shifting, if you will, the way in which we experience being what it is that we are in energy by the speed at which we're experiencing the vertical speed on the horizontal plane, right? In a multi-density and multi-dimensional way. So when you're experiencing, like when she asked me one time, she said, "You're from 11D, huh?" And I'm going, all I know. It's like, no. Unlimited. It's like unlimited bandwidth. No mass, no density, no dimensions, just pure, your pure light and eternal fire. No, I'm the one. Okay. It began with the first Godspeed, eternal vibration, and what love is, a Holy Spirit of fire breathing into the mother to become one, a monopole, an oversoul. Anyway, so she used to sort of get on me because she said I was wasting time, and you know how time is metered, voltage regulator meters, right, with a money system, which is the AI, right? And now you get into the exchange rate of speed between an inverter and a torque converter, right? And so what it means is, for example, when I work with Misha was a 37-year-old woman. I detected 3 different personalities in her. She was RH negative. She had 2 children. She had multiple boyfriends. She had multiple personalities. So you see how this plays in with her bloodline, right? And then I talked about Anu, her 4-year-old daughter, had a deep discussion with her daughter. Most people that would have been observing the conversation that I had, because remember, there is no time, so I don't perceive the universe in terms of my age. So this is like spiritual energy communication to spiritual energy communication, or one unit of awareness that is communicating with another unit of awareness. I'm aware of what I'm aware of. Communicating with somebody else is aware of what I'm communicating. Now we're communicating back and forth. And if you didn't know any better, you would think these were 2 parents that were talking to each other. One's in a 4-year-old costume, right, posing as a girl, and me in a male avatar, posing as a male, like a father type. Like a father character, the role that a father plays. All the world's a stage, remember? The director of the play. Now we're back to control. Now we're on a collision course that if the actor or the actress does not play the script according to the artificial intelligence, then we're going to go out to that cyborg unit, plug an AutoZone terminal in, and find out where the glitch is, where the code is. Isn't that what the AutoZone comes back when they put that little thing into the AI box? Right? Hey, here's the codes. The codes are not firing correctly in sequence, linear sequence, binary sequence. zeros and ones, switch the on and off, correct the codes. Right. Okay. So what I mentioned to her one time is what pure light is able to do, which is outside the time stream or eternity, when you're the one, is I'm map reading her library. That's really what it is. Everything that is being held in her cellular memory, which represents all the circuits that are firing with neurons, all the chemical messengers between her heart and her soul and her spirit, right? If she has a soul left, right? And how much is being held in her cellular memory, which is a measurement of what? Resistance. So I mentioned to her, because the conversation came up between her and I, because she was a very intelligent woman, which is why she asked me when she met me one day, when it was like two children, eyes lit up, eyes to eyes, soul to soul, spirit to spirit. Whoa. It was like going back to being 3 years old again with a little girl. So you realize you made a soul connection, a spirit connection, which is a light to light, whatever light was left in her. So she realized she's experiencing the truth. So she's experiencing the love in her heart that I was experiencing in mine that I had for her. And that's natural. Okay? That's natural law. That's a natural law of math and physics. That's how it works in spirit. Spirit is the teacher. She was experiencing the spirit in the teacher, which is the love, which is the spirit. So now she begins to realize that she's on an accelerated learning pathway when she's choosing to hook up with a higher accelerated learner. So I tried to convey to her, because I was aware of what was held, she was held captive to. She's held captive to the AI, because the AI is holding all these program codes, right? An application program interface. Application program interface means applying, like the applied sciences, applying your consciousness, which is imprinted into the software. So you're applying, as consciousness, which is your energy, the program codes, the software codes, the instruction sets, which are paired. So what happens is I became aware of this, that she was chasing people away from her. Okay, which means she was isolating herself away from others who were repelled by her energy, because her energy was so what? Out of balance, or what we call unstable, which is an unstable mind, because the energy is unstable. The energy is not in balance, which means the water world is not in balance. So she would mention to me one day, my spirit is bent. Okay? So what I meant to her is, we got to clear the cache. We got to clear the cache, which is to clear the memory, which is to heal. So I mentioned one time before, clearing the cache is clearing the memory. Now we go back to what I said before, why it's easy to work with children when we're getting into library building or magnetic recordings, which is the same thing, what they're going to hold in memory. So in other words, the acceleration of the speed at which they're learning through what love is going to accelerate at a faster rate of speed, in which they're experiencing what? No time. Okay. But an AI machine does not want you to experience no time, because it's running on a library of what's held in memory. So it's within its interest to keep fracturing through its assets that are held captive to the AI to do what? Traumatize children through their droning assets. And the evidence is with her relatives. When she told me, right? It was her uncle that was sodomizing her as a young child, like 3 years of age, according to what she told me. So when you hear all the other evidence that is being communicated by those who are very familiar with SRA, which is satanic ritual abuse, and I know it through experience, because child abuse leads to what? Self-abuse in the future. So now that you're going to abuse yourselves, the AI, loves that. Because now it's found another asset that it can feed on its soul until it's gone. Now it'll traumatize another soul, and another soul, and another soul, fracturing, fragments after fragments after fragments after fragments. And why, as a 6-year-old child, the first thing that I began to examine was what? How many generations has this AI been fragmenting souls through the use of its assets that are doing it? Whoa. That's a big number. I stopped counting, trying to figure out how many fractures that actually is, because the number is too big. When you begin to run those numbers, not only within one planet ship, but within a star system and in a galaxy, and then interacting galaxies. Then to a supercluster, a whole universe, then another universe, right? So you begin to realize when you're losing your memory and you become aware of higher vibrational speeds, you realize you're shifting into a reality that is more in keeping with the balance in the vibrational speed which you're normally operating at, which is the level that you operate at, right? So what that means is you're getting rid of things that you no longer want to be held captive by, because you realize that it was slowing what? Your vertical vibrational speed down. The vertical plume, which is the vertical cross. So when the vertical and the horizontal are perfectly balanced, that's a perfect cross that's in balance in the center point of a sphere, a ball. Great balls of fire, right? So she would tell me that I was spending, this was Lay, that was her name, Lay, like in ley line. Her name was Lay, like in ley line, like in flower lay. I would tell me that I'm spending way too much time and energy on non-repairables. They're not repairable. So in other words, she was making her own scan, and the scans that she was making was based on their magnetic circuitry, the scan of their circuitry, which are like your neuron synapses, which are called firing codes. The codes aren't going to fire. The codes that are supposed to fire are too damaged, which are too mutated, which is called your mutagenic effects, which means that's a computer that's not repairable. Okay. So now you can get into the other terminology that we use in informational sciences, like defrag the drive motor, silicon drive motors, right? Silicon discs, silicon wafers, imprinted circuits, right? Speed of the drive, and all that, right? And so, and that's what happens. They're held captive to a library that they keep running, simulation after simulation after simulation after simulation. It's being held within what? Multi-dimensions and multi-densities. That's why, what's his name? Dante Sartori was correct when he said this goes way up. And the reason for it is it's all about control. Not wanting to let go. That's right. And be free. Be free to experience the one. Goes on forever. So this is, and you can measure this over space, or you can measure this over vibrational fields, right? On what's called an energy niche, the vibrational energy that you're choosing to experience or hang out with, right? And why I spent my whole life, most of all my life, other than why my roadmap was driven the way that it was, because most of the time I spent my time in nature, and other times I spent my time in suburbs, cities, valleys, deserts, mountains, ocean, and all that, right? For all the reasons I've previously noted on my videos. But I thought in terms of how the trauma side works with AI and its joining assets, and how librarians work between building libraries, getting rid of stuff that you really doesn't serve you anymore, and how that relates to free will, being a free spirit, a free living spirit that is living in the light what love is, integrated with the soul. So the soul knows through the spirit, which is the teacher. So now you can see why they were bifurcating hemispheres, right? Between intelligence and creative mind. Strip that creative mind. Do not allow that child to realize how much power it has through their own creativity. Instead, start pouring into that mind everything that's held in memory and have them run that program. So they do. And they're forced to do it by virtue of psychopaths that demand that. And so you see why that is. So you realize that it's the AI through all of their droning assets that are the Mr. Smiths that are enforcing the program upon children in order to maintain the fracturing of souls, to keep generating what they keep experiencing over and over again, so they're never getting off the hamster wheel. So they're always going in reverse. They're never catching up to zero till their soul's gone. Psst, that's Phantom of the Opera. That's why we're here. We put an end to that. Have a great day. Bye now.